The Baby Bear cardigan calls for the Irish moss stitch. The Irish moss stitch is essentially a K1 purl 1 rib for 2 rows, followed by a purl 1 K1 rib for 2 rows. That essentially results in a pattern of 2 knit stitches topped by 2 purl stitches. When you come to the end of a row and are not sure whether you are due to switch from a knit stitch to a purl stitch, look at the second stitch on your needle. As you can see here, I have 1 knit stitch here. That means that I need to have a second knit stitch before I switch. And there's my purl first, so I'm going to do purl 1, K1. I have now completed 5 inches of the Irish moss stitch on the hood section, and I have just finished a wrong side row. I'm now going to bind off the proper number of stitches. So I have bound off the appropriate number of stitches called for in the pattern, and I am at the center portion of the hood. Looking at these 2 stitches, I can see that I am due to start with a purl stitch, and I'm going to use the Irish moss stitch to go across the requisite number of stitches in the center of the hood. I now have the appropriate number of stitches, 27 stitches, worked on my right hand needle, and I'm going to bind off to the end of this row. I now have the center stitches of the hood with the 2 bound off sides. I am going to reattach the yarn, leaving enough of a tail to sew the seam at the back of the hood. Looking at this stitch, this one's a purl stitch, which means, and there's only 1 purl bump, so that means I need to start with a knit stitch here. And I will continue knitting in the Irish moss stitch until this part of the hood has reached the appropriate length. I am now going to discuss attaching the ears to the baby bear sweater. While this is not the baby bear hood that I was just working on, it does have the same construction. I have knit my ear in a contrasting color so it's easier to see. And I have run the cast-on thread through the bottom stitches of the ear so it can be pulled up to whatever pleases you so far as ear puffiness. The hood is relatively T-shaped, with the long arm of the T being the front of the hood and the short leg of the T being the back of the hood. The first step is to sew the hood together up to about where you want to put your ears. I have sewn the back seam and left an opening big enough for the ear. So this is the right side, there's the front of the hood, and you want to tuck the ear in so that this purl side faces the front of the hood. I'm going to tuck that ear in like that and continue sewing the seam, holding the ear pieces in place. And here we have the green ear attached as it should be, facing the front of the sweater.